In this first video of the Electrical for Gas course, we're going to talk about our basics of safety and hazard prevention. Okay, safety is going to be really important for everything you do in class, in field, and in our shops. So let's start off with the basics, okay? Electrical shock is a really bad situation. Current is the killing factor in electrical shock. Currents between 100 and 200 milliamps generally cause the heart to fibrillate, okay, which can actually cause heart failure. A 110-volt power circuit will generally cause between 100 and 200 milliamps through the current flow through the bodies of most people. So even a low voltage in the right circumstance can actually cause you to die. Okay, so therefore we have lockout tagout procedures. Whenever a piece of equipment is being worked on, you need to disconnect it from the power source and make sure it's locked. The person working on the equipment should carry the only key to prevent accidental activation. This is why you'll see some tags around on equipment that look like the one on the right, okay? You hang the tag on the lock, which is attached to the disconnect or however the power is turned on and off. On the tag, it has your name and the date. You are the only one that carries the key. Okay, so you're the only one who can turn it back on. The tag is important so that people know who's working on the equipment and why it's locked out. Okay, do not ever work alone in our shops, okay? If you must test a live circuit, have someone with you ready to turn off the power. Call for help or give CPR. Now, here's the problem here. When you're in the field, okay, most companies are not going to send two people to the field, to a rooftop unit or something like that. So what you need to do is make sure you let somebody know where you are and how long it's going to be before you get back in contact. You do not want to have an accident on a rooftop of some office building and not have given someone a heads up what you're working on and where you're going to be. That's why it's really important. Never get on the roof without a phone. Never get on a roof without letting somebody know, preferably a service dispatcher or another service tech, where you are and when you're going to check in back in with them. Okay. You need to learn a little bit of the basics of first aid. Anyone working on electrical equipment should take the time and learn CPR and first aid. Okay. To prevent injuries, do not wear rings or jewelry when working on electrical connections. You'll notice that most HVAC techs and most electricians do not wear their wedding bands, okay, or any jewelry on their bodies. Chains are an absolute no-no. Okay, do not wear metal chains that can fall out of your shirt and fall into anything. Don't use screwdrivers or other conductive tools in an electrical panel when the power is on. Make sure you disconnect the power before you're using anything metal around a disconnect. For portable electrical tools, it should have metal frame and has a safety ground wire in the power cord. When you're using an adapter for a two-prong receptacle to a three-prong cord, be sure the adapter is properly grounded. Most modern hand tools are constructed with plastic cases for double installation. Okay, now that's for plug-in tools. For battery-operated tools, just make sure the battery's not broken and make sure nothing's smelling like burning electrical. Make sure you use non-conducting ladders. Aluminum ladders can be hazardous if they come into contact with power lines. Fiberglass or wood ladders is what should be used. And you make sure that if you're using ladders, you check and make sure nothing is damaged or broken. Fiberglass ladders and wood ladders can both split and become extremely dangerous. When you're dealing with anything that's under pressure, like an oxygen tank, nitrogen tank, refrigerant tank, or brazing, that's acetylene or the MC tanks, make sure you also have something in mind of safety. The pressure in the vessel increases as the temperature increases. So in other words, that tank you take out of the air-conditioned office in the morning will increase in pressure over the course of the day when it's left in a hot van. It will also decrease in pressure when it's in cold weather, because everything except nitrogen has a temperature-pressure relationship. Pressure goes up when temperature goes up. Pressure goes down when temperature goes down. Refrigerant cylinders should always be stored in the upright position. You'll deal more with that in your refrigeration classes. Large cylinders should only be moved when the protective cap is in place. That's because if it falls over, it can actually knock the valve and the regulator off, and then that cylinder becomes a missile. Okay, large cylinders should be secured to carts designed for moving cylinders. You want to wear gloves and eye protection when working with anything that's a liquefied glass. Okay, R22 is a type of refrigerant. If that tank falls over, the valve stem may break off, causing the tank to become a projectile or a little missile. Okay, and it's going to go direction away from where the valve is. So when you load tanks that are laying down into a truck, you want to make sure it is pointing to the back of the truck. Okay, the valve up close to the front seats and the tank pointing backwards. If you have to lay them down, try not to have to lay them down. When you're working with electrical, okay, you want to exercise caution when working on or around electrical circuits. Uncontrolled electrical current flow can result in electrical shocks or burns. Make sure you follow all lockout tagout procedures. Exercise caution when working on live circuits. Do not come in contact with energized conductors. Electrical shock occurs when you become part of the circuit. Okay, in other words, if you put your body in the path of the electrical, it is an electrical shock. Severity of the shock is determined by voltage, current, and the path the current takes as it flows through your body. If it flows through your chest or your heart, it can be fatal. To help prevent shock, wear insulated boots. Do not stand in water while working on equipment. Grounding wires provide protection from electrical shock. The ground wire, that's the third prong on most electrical plugs, and the green wire, if things are hardwired, provides an alternative path for current to take. All tools should be properly grounded. Do not use tools that have missing or damaged ground prongs. Okay, this is an example of ground protection. You'll see that this is two-prong. Okay, ungrounded tools have two prongs. One supplies the line voltage to the tool, the other is the neutral. If the tool becomes grounded, current can flow through the tool and through the user to ground, causing shock. Okay, and that is a direct path through your chest. Okay, grounded tools have three prongs. You have a neutral, a line, and a ground. If the tool becomes grounded, the current will flow to the ground through the ground prong, protecting the user. And that's simply because the wire, that's the ground wire, is copper or another material like that. It's going to have a lower resistance or opposition to current flow than your body. So the current always takes the path of least resistance. If wall outlets only have two connections and the tool has three prongs, use an adapter. Plastic case tools are double insulated and often have two prongs. Battery operated tools are convenient and safer. Ground fault interrupters, GFCIs, sense a small electrical current leaks to ground. Avoid wearing metallic jewelry while working on electrical circuits. Metallic jewelry conducts electricity, especially gold and silver chains. Never use a screwdriver in an electrical panel when the power is on. Burns can result from electrical sparks. Okay, if a screwdriver slips and makes contact between the hot terminal and ground, okay, it's going to throw a spark. That spark can either cause electrical shock or burn. Okay, it's called arcing. Non-conducting ladders should always be used when you're using ladders. Fiberglass or wooden ladders are preferred. Ladders should be placed on a level surface. Damaged ladders should not be used. Ladders should be free of oil, grease, and other slipping hazards. Ladders should have slip-resistant feet. Secure the ladder in place whenever possible. Now that's important for two reasons. One, a ladder can slip and leave you stranded or leave you hanging on the side of a roof. Two, somebody can come along and remove a ladder thinking nobody's using it because they cannot see you on the roof of a building. So always secure the ladder at the top whenever possible. Okay. We also have heat-related safety issues you need to be aware of. Torches concentrate a large amount of heat. Keep torches away from combustible materials. In other words, if you are brazing or welding or soldering, do not put it near anything that can burn. Think about gas pipes when you're dealing with furnaces and boilers. Make sure there's a fire extinguisher nearby. Use a fire shield when soldering near combustibles. In other words, if you're soldering a pipe along a sheetrock or wood wall, put something metal behind it as a fire shield. Hot pipes and motors can also cause burns. Working outdoors or in hot attics can cause injury. Be very careful in some summer months that you do not get dehydrated. Okay, half an hour in a hot attic can cause you to lose about 5% of your body's water due to sweat. Okay, be very careful. Attics in summer months can get up to 140 degrees easily. You got to be very cautious about cold-related issues as well. Cold can be just as dangerous as heat. You're going to be out on very cold roofs during the winter months in New England. Okay, sometimes you have to take a shovel snow around equipment and everything else like that. Wind chill is a factor. You're also going to be dealing with liquid refrigerants that can cause frostbite. The refrigerant R22 boils at a negative 41 degrees if it comes out. Wear warm clothing and waterproof boots when working in cold, wet environments. Cold weather gear should be worn when working in low temperature freezers. Just because you're going to be in the freezer for 5 minutes at 0 degrees can give you frostbite. Rotating machinery can cause injury. You're going to be working around motors, belts, pulleys, and everything else. Loose-fitting clothing can get caught in rotating machinery, including fans, belts, and pulleys. Jewelry can get caught on machinery. In other words, those chains that I keep talking about, don't wear chains around your neck that can flop out of your shirt. Even if you think it can't flop out of your shirt, it probably can. Use eye protection when working on or around rotating machinery. You never know what's going to fly out of it. Never try to stop a rotating machine by hand. Okay, you grab onto a belt or a pulley, it can actually pull you in and it will get your fingers. Okay. When you move heavy objects, use the safest method possible. Try to get help from others. Lift with your legs, not your back. Use hand trucks whenever possible. Pry bars and dollies can also be used. Use a back brace. Occasionally, you're going to be around gases that you shouldn't breathe in. Okay, refrigerant gases are heavier than air. These gases displace oxygen. Avoid breathing refrigerant vapors. Use proper ventilation. Use leak detectors and alarms that are required in certain applications. ASHRAE Standard 34-1992 addresses refrigerant toxicity and flammability. You want to be very careful of any gas, especially propane, that will sink rather than rise in the air. Anything that's heavier than air will actually push the oxygen out of the space, and if you breathe it in, you can drown without being in water. Okay, there's just no oxygen because the gas has displaced all the oxygen. When you're dealing with chemicals, which you're going to be dealing with, chemicals are used to clean condensers, evaporators, and other pieces of equipment. Okay, they're also used for water treatment. Make sure you read the manufacturer's directions and follow the first aid procedures. They can cause irritation to eyes, throat, and skin. Be careful. Use gloves if you are using anything that has a burn hazard. Some of the chemicals you're going to be using to clean condensers, okay, is actually strong enough to peel the paint off the side of a house. So just be aware of what it's going to do to your skin. Okay, safety is everybody's business. However, you do have to look out for yourself. You're going to be given the tools to do the job right. Your employer should give you the tools to do the job safely. It's basically up to you to make sure you use it. If it doesn't look right, if it doesn't feel right, don't do it.